What's going on, BookTube? Today I'm going to be doing an in-depth review / discussion of Carrie, and this is going to be a spoiler review. So if you haven't read the book or if spoilers bother you, then do not continue this video. It is full of spoilers. So with that knocked out of the way, let's get into the review itself. So Carrie's the story of a girl that is bullied and kind of an outcast. At school, she's made fun of and harassed, and while at home, she is honestly abused by a psycho fanatic of a mother. At the beginning of the story, she experiences a traumatic event that brings some telekinetic powers to the surface. And as she learns to flex that telekinetic talent, she has to deal with the consequences. Along the way, we follow two of the bullies that actually made her go through that traumatic incident at school, the one that bullied her and sparked this telekinetic resurgence of her powers. And one of them is trying to redeem herself. She's trying to make amends, even if it's through a bad, inappropriate way, while the other one is actually trying to get even further revenge because she got in trouble for how she did bully Carrie to begin with. With the summary completed, I want to jump into the parts I want to discuss, which essentially is the fact that this isn't something I'm used to reading. I'm more used to the big epic fantasies, and I've never really read a horror book before. Maybe Dracula. Dracula was probably the first horror book, but besides that, I don't read these types of books. And throughout the whole first half, I was really trying to I really couldn't tell if this was a horror. Is this a suspense or thriller novel? Is this really a horror novel? But by the second half of the book, and 100% by the end, there is no doubt in my mind that this is a horror book. And it was a great introduction to horror, I feel like. It showed me what horror done right can be. And I saw a quote from a comedic fantasy author the other day. I don't know if it was Terry Pratchett, Nicholas Eames, or Zachary Pike. I can't remember which one it was. But essentially it said that every good comedic fantasy needs some sorrow. Stephen King makes me wonder if great horror requires not happiness, but maybe hope or peace. And this is really, there's two things I really want to discuss, but this is the first one I'm going to start with. I feel that the true horror that comes from this book is that we get to see what things could have been. After Carrie is humiliated and traumatized, we see her go through a redemption cycle. We see her elected as prom queen while her date is the king and is her dream guy. We saw through other people's point of view. We saw how they started to view her differently than just this weird kid. They started to view her as an actual human being. And we start to get that hope of what things can be until things start to go wrong. We see things the way things should be. And it's this hope that really makes this so horrible. It's this hope that makes it such a horror when things start to go wrong. The next thing I really want to touch on is the writing and point of view that is shown throughout this book. This is not only the very first Stephen King book I've read, but this is Stephen King's first published book, if I'm correct. So I honestly wasn't really expecting it to be great. I was expecting it to be good, but not excellent. But I was wrong, and his writing style and the way he tells the story throughout these different points of views shows me the true skill that Stephen King has as an author. It's amazing because from the start of the story, we know what's going to happen. The story is not only being told from the point of view of Carrie and two of her classmates, which are both very important to making this story work so well, but it's also told through the lens of a world who's trying to deal with the aftermath of the Carrie situation. One that is starting to accept, and if not accept, at least consider the possibility of telekinetic beings being out there and the damage they can cause. And it's telling it, they're telling us of this horrific situation that Carrie put them through. So we know what happened. And because we know the ending from the beginning, I felt like this wouldn't work. I feel like it wouldn't be a great story because we know how it's going to end from the start. And yet this viewpoint not only didn't take away from the story, but it's what made the story. Each point of view did its own special thing for the story. The point of view from the people after the fact, from the newspaper articles and the interviews and the trial and all these things. These are creating a suspense for the reader throughout the whole book. Like from the start, we have this suspenseful dread. The Carrie point of view lets us see the trauma in the beginning, blossom to hope, and then end in horror. We empathize with her while being disgusted by her actions. The classmate that regrets her decisions and tries to find redemption. That all adds to the hope. And you see a person trying to do a good thing that we know isn't the right way of going through things and is going to end badly. But you see good in people. You see the bright side of things, and you see somebody trying to do the right thing. And then we follow the story through Chris's eyes, we see a whole different type of horror. Even though some people will debate that it's more self-inflicted horror from her point of view, I would argue that she is still going through a horrific event of her life as well. And it just adds more depth and more elements to the story. All these different points of views and levels and depth of the story takes it from a good book to a great book. And I was blown away with this story and Stephen King's writing skill, honestly. Like, it was just fantastic. So in the end, I would actually rate this 5 out of 5 stars. It's not one of my favorite books of all time. I think that for it to be one of my favorite books of all time, it would have to be in the books that I typically like to read. Like, this isn't something I would typically pick up. But I really enjoyed this story. The book was very well written. It was very well done. And everything just fit together and worked. Those were really the main parts of the story that I wanted to talk about and discuss. If there were other things in this book that had a deep impact on you or that you want to talk about or discuss, let me know in the comments below. But besides that, that's the end of the review. So make sure you like and subscribe to get notified when the next video drops. And until next time, I hope you're out there reading cool new books and reading cool new worlds. I'm going to be continuing with the Stephen King novels as we go on in chronological order. So until next time, I'll be back soon. Thank you.